invited to do this talk because I met Tatiana through a woman that was in a women's group that I'm in. And this connection was because I did a talk about neuroscience. And I'm a pediatric emergency doctor. I discovered a frequency that would block pain. And in doing that, I realized that some people, the frequency didn't block pain because of the way their brain worked. And so I figured out a way that we can all decrease pain. And so Tatiana asked me to do a talk, and I thought, okay, well, you know, because I found this frequency, I did start a company. And we got some awards, and we made money, and we also got to go on television. And now I'm looking at different frequencies that can actually reduce low back pain, and we're using harmonics. And I was like, great, I can talk about business to entrepreneurs. And then I saw the program. So I guess I'm talking about neuroscience. So okay, let's talk about neuroscience. There will be a test. Actually, this is a really important thing. We will talk a little about neuroscience because the way that pain works is part of the way that our brains are keeping us from success in business. Now, what you're seeing here is the fact that with functional MRIs, the brain is not one place responding, but connections. And so these connections are kind of the secret to the way that we can get empowered as women. So you will leave this being smarter, which I define as having interesting things to talk about at cocktail parties and tell other people. You will also understand why women's genetics make us more likely to be happier and to live longer, but they may not make us win in the boardroom. If we leverage neuroscience, however, then we can use our brains to get us to the place where we need to be while still keeping the difference that makes us women. So, it's not going to be a surprise to you that equality is actually not where women are. We're not equal, we're different. And part of it is because the skills we have in our neuroscience doesn't make us win, it makes us connected. And so to understand how we can use our mind to change our brain, what we need to do is to understand first pain. So, when I was in medical school, I learned that pain is a warning sign that goes to your brain into a pain place. With functional MRI, we started seeing all the connections. And so it's not one pain place. It goes to a master center, then it goes to a switchboard, and the switchboard then goes to fear and memory and to options and to what we can do about it. So when we think about pain, it's not really what we're feeling, it's this quick response. What our brain is it gives us a fast answer. But sometimes the brain is wrong. So when we think about pain, it really is what we've learned to expect to feel, not what we're actually feeling. And fear is about safety. So fear makes pain worse. Now let me tell you why this is important. So this gentleman is going to show us how what we expect is what our brain feels. So this fake rubber arm is not his, but it doesn't take long to train the brain to expect that he's feeling something that means that this arm he sees is the real arm. So when he takes a real pin and jabs it into the fake arm, he feels real pain. So we feel what we've learned to expect to feel. We also act the way we've learned to expect to act. So I didn't always want to be a doctor. Actually, when I was very young, I wanted to be a nurse. And my parents said, you could be a doctor. I think I was 4. So I said, yeah, I'll be a doctor. And I told people I was going to be a doctor, and they told me, oh, you're going to be a doctor. So here I am, I'm a doctor. And as a doctor and a mom, I cared about pain. And when I found that children were so afraid of needles that they weren't getting health care, I came up with a design to make it so pain would stop instantly. It's kind of like if there's running water and you're burned and you stick your finger in, the burn pain goes away. So the frequency and the vibration was enough to block pain, but I realized through my research that fear was a big problem. So I testified before Health and Human Services saying, hey, we're going to have a COVID problem. People won't get vaccinated because they're afraid of needles. And this fear was what was really impacting my company. Because sometimes there were children who would get poked but didn't feel pain. And sometimes there were children who got swabbed with alcohol who still felt pain, even though it was nothing there that was going to hurt them. Kind of like the woman in the Tesla. Whoa! She was safe, but her brain was trying to warn her that she was in danger. So what we came up with the children who were so afraid that the pain relief of the device didn't work, was we knew they needed to have a job for their brain. Clearly, they needed monkeys. What we did was make a design. And at first we started things like, how many monkeys have glasses? But that wasn't enough to activate the brain switchboard to stop it from activating fear. So instead, and this is one, take this home to your families, when we ask how many monkeys are actually touching the bed, when it's a difficult question. So everyone, how many monkeys do you think are actually touching the bed? Try to count it. Yeah. The thing is, I heard people say 4. If you had said 5 to me, and I'm about to give you a shot, I would say, no, it's actually 4, because that monkey is in front of the bed. Maybe you need to play more video games. There's an easy way to do this if you don't have monkeys, and that is if you look at any sentence, count how many of the letters have holes in them. And that is the key. Your mind, through thinking slowly, can override the brain's guess. So for pain, your brain is guessing based on the people and the place you are that you're going to feel hurt and you're not going to be safe. But your mind can slow it down and ignore what the brain is telling you. Now, we feel what we've learned to feel, but we also act how we've learned that others expect us to act. And in my business, we've now had over 114 million needle procedures, and we expanded to tennis elbow, plantar fasciitis. My new company is doing low back pain. But what kept me back in business is knowing what Tariq told you, that only 3% of women get funding. I don't have time to get turned down, so I never applied for funding. We bootstrapped because I became what others expected me to be. I am a woman and I expected to not get funding, so I didn't even try. How can we overcome that? You know, you heard earlier, oh, be confident. Oh, you're going to take over the world. If we don't feel confident, how can we be confident? I'm going to tell you how. So, because acting like others expect us to isn't always the best for our businesses or in life, we've got to understand why we respond like this. And how can we change this expectation? And I'm going to take us all the way back to 1936. So, in 1936, Piaget started studying development of children. How do we learn to be humans? And how do we learn to be in society? And so he spent hours watching little boys play marbles. And he found that there were certain stages of rules that the little boys became able to do. Now, when he tried to look at little girls, they weren't playing marbles, they were playing house. They were practicing being socially engaged. And the interactions were nuanced. It was hard for him to count or to qualify what was going on. So while he appreciated the connection, he decided, you know what, I'm not going to pay attention to girls. It's easier with boys. Boys' interactions are black and white. Boys like numbers. It's either this or that. It's more or less. These are called hard skills. If you'll notice, both the CEO and the chairman earlier today quoted statistics. Men in boardrooms and business like numbers. They like hard skills. And women, not so much. So all of these theories that were made about our development is based on boys because it was more straightforward. It was easier to see. Here's something else that boys do when they're playing. How many of you have boys? We have two, and one girl. And so the boys will tell each other, dude, you're stupid. What was that? You're a slob. What are you doing? Man, you're dumb. And so boys get used to not defining themselves by what other boys think. What do girls tell each other? Ooh, I like your dress. That's not a bad thing at all. It enhances our connections, but it's a difference. So this is why when we look in the mirror, we see what the society has told us to expect, and we're bigger than that. But guys look in the mirror, and they're just trying to see if they can make a peck. And these differences are a problem for us in business, because it's not just what we expect about ourselves, it's what society also expects. We heard a lot earlier about diversity and the number or percentage of women, but that's not the point. The point is that when women are on teams, the teams perform better. The collective intelligence is better. If there are more than 50% women in a room, you're going to have more people asking questions, and if you're making a treaty and women are involved, that treaty lasts longer. But what people think about women is that we're more moral, and therefore if we do something wrong, we should be punished worse. This was a study with law students who were given the same infraction, but if it was Jack, they didn't punish him as much as if it was Jane. She got really punished because women are supposed to be more moral. Well, what's interesting is that a guy named Lawrence Kohlberg, who's really nice, he looked at Piaget's stages, and he was like, you know what, we can probably quantify morality, and this is very relevant for trust. And so the details aren't important, but what is important is that when he tested fourth grade boys and girls, on his scale, the boys were much more moral. So a woman came along and said, if boys are more moral in fourth grade, you're a slob. Probably the problem is your scale. So she looked at how women make decisions, and she conceived this idea of a web of connectivity. We are all connected, and we think about how others are going to be affected, and that's our morality, is who's going to be affected, how much. How are we able to do this? When she did the study on girls and boys, girls in the fourth grade were more moral, looking at it from a caring web perspective. So, looking at that, we're really good at treaties, and we're really good at interpersonal connections. How can we use those skills in the boardroom to win when it's more like a game? It's more like one's better than the other. It's not as collaborative. What we have that men don't is 2 X chromosomes. Now, I really was used to thinking of X and Y chromosomes like apples and oranges. Look at those little guys. Those are all X's. And if you look at a Y, what's missing? A whole bunch of DNA. I mean, it's like an entire piece is missing. And so I decided to look it up. How much more DNA do we have? 96 million more base pairs. There's a hard skill for you. So what that does is lots of things. So this is why men get bald. They're missing the DNA that can fix a problem. Why are men colorblind? They're missing the DNA. Why do they have hemophilia? Why do men have 5 times more autism than women? Because women are coding for social connectivity. This way that we code for social connectivity, up until about 5 years ago, people thought, oh, well, this is oxytocin. It's a woman's hormone. What it does is it comes out when we give birth. It comes out when we breastfeed. The other thing that oxytocin does for men and women is it promotes healing. It decreases pain. It gives us a longer life. It's why people that interact socially have more happiness. It's because of this oxytocin. And the good part is that it makes us so much better at social connections. We can read nonverbal cues. We can think about others' emotions in fairness. It's kind of like men are making one decision or another, and women, because of our DNA, are looking at a lot of different things all at once. So, this is why women are constantly known for multitasking, but when I looked at Google for men multitasking, not so much. Stressed them out. The bad part of this is that because we are always aware of who needs help, we don't like to ask for help. We also are anticipating and conform to others' expectations because we're constantly keeping in mind what behaviors we expect from others. So when people say, oh, well, women hold a grudge, we don't hold a grudge. We have been selectively enhanced so that we can predict other people's behavior. Our superpower is assessing who in our circle will be reliable, who will help us, and who can we count on. So there's a woman named Gail Evans who's one of my mentors, and she was the head of CNN. And what she said is that if you want to elevate other women, you still have to play the men's game, but do it while maintaining connections. So what this means is that you're going to restate with someone else's name when they have a good idea. Like Deputy CEO Selilova, she was the only woman on stage who's used a statistic. She's using hard skills, that's why she's the CEO. When you say in a room an idea, say a number and say my analysis. So my analysis is, or my theory is, or say Tatiana's theory. So elevate other women using names. And if you're in a group, call on women first. If you need to ask a favor, first start by saying, can I ask a favor? And then lay the groundwork so you can say, I know this is going to be difficult. Is there any way? That gives them an out. So that way you maintain the social connection. And then you tell them the favor, and then you tell them why. So that anyone you're asking can decide, is my need more than their need? Which is more important? Know that women are asked to do things 3 times more often than men. And the reason is because we say yes. Because we don't want to ruin that social connection. But everything you say yes to is something else you'll say no to. So, for example, I said yes to being at a show, and I had to do a presentation, and I missed out on being with my family. You don't know what it is yet, but if you say yes to something, you're going to say no to something else. And finally, last tip, before I give you my big hack that Tatiana inspired. All right, so just because you're the best person to do the job does not mean that you have to do the job. It's okay, even if you're the best, to make somebody else do it. We can delegate. And know that that means the job probably won't be done the way you would do it, but that's okay. All right, so in thinking about the fact that the pain is a fast warning sign for physical safety, but the brain can be wrong. And you can trick the brain into not connecting to fear. I think that insecurity is a fast warning for our social safety. We are afraid of risking lack of connection. So here is how you gain confidence. How can you become more secure feeling? Sharon Shamanova said that love was what kept her going. So I think that if we know that we are loved, if we know that there's no mistake we're going to make that's going to jeopardize that, I think that's the brain hack for insecurity. It's oxytocin. What makes us feel oxytocin, what makes us feel loved, is pictures of people who are going to love us no matter what. So here's my hack that I am giving you for the first time in history anywhere. Make an oxytocin board. Make a picture board of all the people who are going to love you no matter what. And so when you're feeling insecure or you're not sure you're going to do something, think about all the people that no matter how badly you mess up your talk at She, no matter how badly you mess up anything, these people are going to love you no matter what. And I can tell you, making this last night, I felt so much confidence that I'm dying to try this out in a situation where I feel insecure. So when you feel insecure next time, think that it's your brain warning you about losing connection, your brain can be wrong. And so the reality is you can make your brain know that you are safe. And your mind can tell your brain that you're brilliant and you are loved. And all of you, you've got this. Thank you.